Episode number 2. We survived the first one. How did we do it? I don't know. Welcome on in to Ahead of the Sticks. I'm Nick Mizesko. That's Andy Fendler joining me as always. Mr. Fendler, we got through the AFC West. We're going to go to the National Football Conference, talk NFC West, but episode 1's in the books. The jitters are gone.
That's right.
It's sort of like the first preseason game. We thought about bringing in the backups for the second quarter, but we decided we'd just keep the starters in, risk injury.
Nah, man, keep the starters in the whole game. That's just the type of vibe that you and I are coming at this thing with. Looking forward to the show here today. We got the NFC West, Niners, Seahawks, Rams, and Cardinal preview. You said it though. Jitters are out. I think we got a good setup for what we want to do here. I can't wait for the show, man. Crook's ready to go. Production's at the ready. It's going to be a great one.
I just want to let you know there will be multiple weeks where I'm going to change your name tag under here. It's going to say Andy Fendandler. It's going to say Andy Fendier.
No, that's Flender to you. That's Friendler. Friendler to you, buddy.
Mr. Big Head, like whatever it is.
Okay, take it easy now.
Eyebrows Magoo. We got it all.
Brow, singular.
Big shout out to everybody who's watching here in our live chat. If you're listening in the audio realm, we are live each and every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern time over on twitch.tv/Mutthead TV. So if you want to watch the show live, come and join us, join the live chat. Otherwise, we appreciate you guys downloading. If you're here in the live chat, go on and download the podcast. If you missed anything, if you want to catch up, or just help the show in general, rate, review, subscribe, all that stuff. Wherever you get your podcast certainly helps us, and we do appreciate it. We're doing division previews all the way up to opening week. We're going to the NFC West this week. And then once we get into football season, you're going to get a little bit of everything. Weekly wrap-ups as well as predictions for the week coming up. So it's a lot of fun. We're excited to do episode number 2. Fen, NFC West time. You ready to get rolling?
I'm excited, man. I can't wait. Ready to rock. Nick Mizesko, you ready to go, brother?
I'm ready to go. Let's get to first down. As first down, all these previews, it is our off-season recaps. Let's start off with the San Francisco 49ers. This team actually had a lot of moves. For a team that was pretty solidified, one of the higher talent teams, they still were looking to improve. You had some guys going elsewhere. Big ones, Jimmy G is out. Right. You've got Mike McGlinchey out. You've got Samson Ebukam and Emmanuel Mosley out. But you bring in Javon Hargrave from Philly, which I think for a team that already had Nicholas Bosa rushing the quarterback, did they really need more pass rushers, especially a guy who was so good in Philly and Javon Hargrave?
I mean, I'm so glad Philly's giving away these high-powered pass rushers.
Thanks,
because
guys.
as a Giants fan, that's just not a situation that I wanted anything to do with this year. So I love it. I think the Niners are a significantly better home for them. Who are we thinking, though, is going to be playing quarterback here? Is this Trey Lance's team? Are we certain on that just yet? Does it remain to be seen? They brought in Sam Darnold as well here, Nick Mizesko. I think Niners, if anybody has realized that you need just a few, they needed one more than they had. You need a few guys on the roster capable of playing quarterback. I mean, Sam Darnold at least fits that mold indeed.
Big shout out to Sammy.
Big
former
shout
number
out
1
to
overall pick.
The Red Tornado, man. Love him.
Yeah.
Curious to see, though, what happens as far. I think the fan base might have a higher faith in Trey Lance than he necessarily deserves at this point. Just from the outside looking in, it seems like Niners faithful really have high hopes for him. They see him kind of like the Bears see Justin Fields. I think the Bears fans might be a little more justified.
We're not Niners fans. Would you be starting Trey Lance? Would you be starting Brock Purdy, who was good at the end of last year? I would say not. He had some good games. He had some more mid games, a very good game manager. But I'll be honest, like I know that there's this Trey Lance thing, and they want to believe in Trey Lance. They want to believe in this athletic quarterback. Could he be great? Maybe. I haven't seen it yet, but he also hasn't gotten a lot of chances. He's been hurt a lot and hasn't had a chance. But with Brock Purdy, isn't Brock Purdy just Jimmy Garoppolo? Are they not this? Is it Spider-Man meme?
I mean, but I don't even think that's necessarily a chirp at Purdy either. No. Just a guy that was kind of plopped into this situation. And because he's a competitor, we talked about it in the last episode, Jimmy G is a winner in a lot of the situations that he's been put in that he had any hope whatsoever. He did enough to make it happen. And I think there's something to be said for that. He might not have the physical tools, arms. He might not have any of the physical tools before I get to listing him. He might just not have the tools at all. But one thing about competitors is they're going to compete. Is Brock Purdy proven himself to be that guy? The injury was fairly catastrophic, as I understand. Curious to see how the recovery has gone there. Whether
they've got two quarterbacks coming in who were both hurt last year, by the way. I mean, Purdy had the injury and Trey Lance got hurt like wild.
So
and Sam Darnold, who wasn't hurt, he was just
Sam Darnolding, whatever he was doing.
Sorry, Sam.
at the time. I'm not even sure what he was doing. Big shots to Sam Darnold. I'd love to drink a beer with the guy.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see how that winds up shaking out. I mean, you can't understate the value of the conversation, what is happening at quarterback. You could have an excellent defense and CMC and all these guys
Deebo
in
Samuel,
the right places.
Brandon Ayuk. Do you really even need a quarterback at that point?
I mean, well, we saw you need somebody. You need somebody with a functional arm.
Yeah. Bro, can we just talk about
that? That was heartbreaking. That was so
rule.
hard to watch as a football fan.
Yeah, I think they changed the rule now. If I'm mistaken, somebody can correct me. I think they changed the rules where you can have a third quarterback.
They did.
Was that not the most
brutal,
painful watch of a playoff game? Like
it was painful because not even as a Niners fan, but just watching the game, it's like they're still not out of the game. Just as a lover of football.
Like this wasn't like they lost their backup quarterback with 2 minutes to go on the floor. We had to watch an entire half of Christian McCaffrey Wildcat
doing his best. Like just trying to figure it out one single solitary play at a time. It was fascinating. Okay. It was a fascinating game to watch. But you just you want to see a game like, as a football fan, you want to see a game like that go down with. You just want to see
everyone to stay healthy in the game.
Even if it is a third string quarterback, there's intrigue there, right? There's value there. You get to see a competitor rise to the occasion or not, or you see why he's a third stringer in the first place. And there was just this uncapitalized value there in that game that was so heartbreaking. I'm glad they made the change, but an intriguing quarterback situation to say the least.
Here's the thing, and this is listen. I'm not going to pretend. Fun fact for those of you listening in the audio world: neither of us are NFL football coaches.
True.
It's just true.
We believe it or not. I know that the surprise. I know this is going to take you by storm, but
yeah. And again, Kyle Shanahan, one of the great minds in football. But here's my question, and I'm just throwing it out there. I don't think we have an answer. You couldn't have let Christian McCaffrey throw the ball once. Like they ran the Wildcat the whole time, and I'm like, he's still a football.
Give him a shot. Yeah, he's an athlete.
I'm not saying run 5 routes out there and make him make a read.
Right.
I'm just saying one play action dump over the top just to let the defense not put 11 in the box every single play. Can we just try it once?
They had the water boy in the box, man.
You're losing with no quarterback. You're going to lose more? Just one time?
What a great situation to be in as a defensive coordinator.
The 49ers will be interesting to watch. We'll talk a little bit more about their quarterback situation. Next up, I think the most intriguing teams out here, the Seattle Seahawks, who not a lot of people leaving this team. They bring back Bobby Wagner, the defensive son who led them the Legion of Boom for so long. They also bring in Evan Brown, who was the 6th best center rated by PFF last year with Detroit. Really good offensive line piece.
Yep.
And you sit here and they go out. I love their draft. They were the only team this year with 2 first-round picks, which is a wild thing to think about. Yeah. They take Devin Witherspoon in the first round. I thought a little bit of a reach out of Illinois, but I really like him. He can cornerback, man corner guy. And then
your boy
who might be the steal of the draft is Jackson Smith and Jigba, who
especially
again,
at that spot.
Take practice and preseason reports with a grain of salt, but JSN has been impressing everybody. This is a guy who's going to get to play in the slot between DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, who are basically already Madden created wide receivers. I mean, DK Metcalf is a cheat code. Then you add in JSN, and then you add in, you've got a running back room that you have Kenneth Walker, who was stellar last year. I mean,
awesome. Yep. They love KW3 down there too.
This is ready. You ready for this? This is live. We're live right now.
That's why we got the producer, man.
Yeah. I saw Big Norm put in the chat. Jack Smith and Jigba broke his wrist. Does that mean that he's going to be gone the entire year? I don't know. I'm
hopefully not. That sucks.
It's going to suck to miss him in the beginning of the year, but when he comes back, he'll be good. We'll see. But live congratulations. If you listen to this, you're getting this audio about a day later, so it's not nearly as breaking news as it sounds, but
just take our word for it. It happened just now.
Yeah, it literally happened today, but JSN breaks, but they still have Kenneth Walker III, and they got Zach Charbonnet, who they drafted out of UCLA, a former Michigan running back. This offense is built to be pretty good. The question is, Andy Fendler, you're a New York guy. You weren't a Jets guy, but you're a New York
guy. Yeah, I've seen him sit on my bench.
Are you a believer in Geno Smith? Do you believe that Geno Smith is the real deal?
Okay, I got to see a lot of Geno Smith play last year. The question begs the question: is he a flash in the pan? He's been around for quite a long time. He's never quite found himself in a situation that he found even a shade of last year in Seattle, right? He goes for over 4,000 yards. I mean, and he's just completely laser beaming. He looked like a completely different guy from the guy I remember in, 2017, where, he's sitting the bench for the New York Giants. It can't be that he's a flash in the pan, because he's been here for whatever 10 year. Was this his 10th year coming up here, or right around there?
Yeah.
It can't be that. Is he finally arriving in a situation where he has pieces around him that are capitalizing on this latent ability that's always been there? I don't know. It was so strange, because he just looked like a brand new player last year. And I don't know how much, of his game tape you got to watch. I felt like he was on TV.
I'm on the West Coast.
I got to see him all the time.
I got a lot.
Yeah, I got to see him. I got to see him a bunch as well. And he was all that. I feel like as the year wore on a little bit, it wasn't quite this, up until maybe mid-season, I thought he was, like almost untouchable. He was, one of the best performers up to that point. I think he cooled off a little bit. I don't think he's a flash in the pan, though. I think he's got enough experience under his belt. He's been, in enough places. He's seen enough of football, and he still finds himself at the helm of this randomly high-powered Seahawks offense. Man, I think it's one of the cooler storylines out. And I think they actually, I think that's a postseason team, honestly.
Yeah, you talk about a guy reigning comeback player of the year. I don't know. I liked what I saw last year, and I think he's got the team around him. I think that's the thing for Geno Smith. Geno Smith is who he is. Let's stop trying to make everybody Patrick Mahomes. Is he going to go out and throw for 450 yards, 5 touchdowns, and make a behind-the-back backflip throw to his tight end?
Probably not.
No. But this is a guy who manages the game, didn't turn the ball over a lot. only 11 interceptions to 30 touchdowns last year. Mm-hmm. And he's got a strong running game behind him that's going to be a two-headed beast with Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. Hopefully Jackson Smith-Njigba comes back on the Sooner side from his broken wrist that happened today.
Hopefully so.
But you still got DK Metcalf. You still got Tyler Lockett out there.
Yep.
And you got, I think, a nice tight end in Noah Fant, a guy who I liked in Denver, is now, moved over to Seattle on the Russ trade. Mm-hmm. And you got a defense that can make some moves. You're going to hopefully have Jamal Adams for a full year. Didn't have him last year. You've got, Bobby Wagner, who is not the player that he used to be, but is still a defensive leader. Quandre Diggs on the backside, Devin Witherspoon, the young corner. I'm excited to watch this team. I think this team is going to be a interesting watch. Mm-hmm. Less of an interesting watch last year was the Los Angeles Rams, who had the Super Bowl hangover of all Super Bowl hangovers. You talk about a team that
it's not getting better either.
Well, before last season, Andrew Whitworth retires, which messed up that whole offensive line. He was the key that made that offensive line go. He retires. You lose Cooper Kupp middle of the year for the season. Matt Stafford has the back thing where he's out multiple games.
Yeah.
Who's gone? Who's there? Well, guess what? Baker Mayfield is gone. And the entire Los Angeles Rams fan base goes,
not Baker.
Oh, yeah, Baker Mayfield played for us last year for a little bit.
You remember him?
That was wild.
Yeah. Wow.
Didn't really bring anybody in. Their cap situation is a disaster. They had like $1.6 million in cap, somewhere around there going in. So they weren't going to have a lot. They had to draft 14 picks. No first round pick, but 14 picks for the Rams.
With no first rounders. That's
no
I misspoke in episode 1 about Denver. I wanted to make a first round quip. Denver didn't have any first rounders because of the Rush trade, but it was indeed the Rams that wound up with the 14
mistaken our first episode. I'm gonna have to edit that out, huh?
Yeah, you're gonna have to go back and harvest that out there, Nick.
You're just gonna hear me
go mute for a hot second
to find it. Like, God.
There's gonna be a censor beep somewhere in there.
Did you know that the Denver Broncos had the following comment was incorrect by Andy Fendler? But
there you go.
I think the interesting thing for the Rams, again, this is going to be a team that we're going to see where Matt Stafford is health-wise. We're going to see what this offense looks like this year. Who's going to step up? Can Cooper Kupp continue to carry this offense? I don't think so. The interesting one, though, draft-wise, they do go out and draft Stetson Bennett, who played for, I think, 35 to 37 years at Georgia.
Yeah, he's middle-aged at this point.
Yeah,
so, I don't know,
Brandon
Baker
Wheaton
and him kind of switcheroony, same difference.
But you talk about a guy who has impressed in the preseason. We've gotten to see a little bit of it. He's a veteran rookie.
Right.
But a guy who, I don't know, you talk about a guy with championship caliber, won some titles at Georgia, comes in, gets to learn under Matt Stafford with Sean McVay as his coach. Could Stetson Bennett get developed into that guy when Matt Stafford steps away? Could be next year, could be 2 years, whenever he does. Is Stetson Bennett that guy, or are they going to be looking elsewhere?
I think it would be cool. I don't know if Stetson Bennett is going to be like the guy for the Rams in any type of extended way. This is another one of these squads. I feel kind of similar to as I did about the Broncos. Feeling like kind of just like some mercenaries coming together. I'm a little bit uncertain as to the direction and the identity of the squad. I think this year will be telling. I think the Stetson Bennett storyline could be great. You got to assume some degree of a little bit higher maturity just because he is a few years older than your average NFL rookie. I think that'll probably serve him at the quarterback spot, just being a little bit closer in age to the rest of the guys on the offense, might serve him fairly well. I am not coming into the season with any high degree of faith in the Rams, returning to Super Bowl form, though. I think that their moment is past. I don't necessarily think they're in rebuilding years just yet. We might see them win a couple more games than they lose this year. I'm not even necessarily sure of that. I have them dancing right around 500 for my money this year, honestly.
Yeah, well, we'll get to predictions at the end, but this Rams team, kind of hard to get a read on. Team that's not hard to get a read on is the Arizona Cardinals, who might be a rough year.
For
those who don't know, I live in Arizona.
Wearing a Lions jersey.
Not going to be making too many trips out to Glendale for games. Might be tough. Most Radamas is still out there in the chat. Sorry, bud.
Buddy.
Some moves. Byron Murphy comes out. They bring in a lot of, I think, interesting pieces. They get Kelvin Beachum in. They bring in Kazir White, young linebacker. They draft 6th overall. So this is wild. They are stockpiled. I mean, you talk about a team who moved back in the draft.
Yeah.
To then move up in the draft. They traded back with Houston, got some picks next year, including Houston's first in 2024. Keep that in mind.
I mean,
they then end up trading up with Detroit, giving back I think they got the 33rd overall pick in 2023, back up to get Paris Johnson Jr., the tackle out of Ohio State. Go Bucks. They also get BJ Ojulari, really nice edge piece that I think can help this defense. But the big one is Kyler's going to be out for an amount of time. How long is that? Could he see some play into November? Maybe. But this team is in rough shape. They get rid of DeAndre Hopkins. Right. Now their top wide receiver is Hollywood Brown, I guess.
Yeah.
James Conner, I've always liked at running back. Talk about a great story and a great back. I love that. But you're going to be having probably Colt McCoy leading this offense, who did nice in relief appearances for Kyler last year. But
I like Colt McCoy. I've been like Colt McCoy.
Yo, I'm wearing the Browns hat. Can we respect Colt McCoy?
With no disrespect on Colt McCoy's name in the chat right now. No shot.
Jeez, oh man. But, this team is, they got a young safety in Budda Baker they end up re-signing, which I love. But the defense, BJ Ojulari, Kazir White, a lot of young pieces. Zaven Collins looking to take the next step. This is just a very young team right now. Yeah. And now without their quarterback, are we looking at a team that could be the number 1 overall pick next year? I think yes. I think this might be the worst team in football.
I think it might be the worst team in football as well. And it seems like the Cardinals are kind of stuck in this continuum. Like the Cliff Kingsbury, Kyler, D-Hop experiment
we did get word that Cliff Kingsbury is not still in Thailand.
Is he doing quarterbacks at USC? Is that his plan here? I do believe, right?
He's with Lincoln Riley. Right. Stuff over there. So shout out to Cliff.
It seems like, obviously that experiment has concluded. It didn't produce not 1% of the results that I think Cardinals fans had hoped to see. And it feels like, again, where they draft Kyler first, 2019, I do believe, and ish.
Somewhere around there.
Sound about correct. And we are 19, now again
19 round 1, yeah.
And we are again now discussing whether they're the worst team in the NFL again. And maybe even a similar collegiate prospect. And I know we're gonna get to this in a couple of downs as to where they might look at quarterback, whether they're going to tank or not. There's more to be said there, but it seems like they're kind of cleaning house in a lot of ways. I know actually close to home, my buddy Parsippany Hills High School alumni from beautiful Garden State, New Jersey. My man Michael Dogby played defensive tackle for the Cardinals for a few years on his rookie contract, lasted the whole thing. Big shouts to Mr. Dogby. Got himself a contract with the Jags too, but just a foundational piece of kind of their depth. And it wasn't just him. A lot of those type of guys, a lot of those pieces that had been in town for a few years, kind of establishing that foundation that they wanted the Cliff Kingsbury and the Kyler Murray to build upon. Those guys are out of town now. So it's going to be, whatever Colt McCoy can do in this new regime. And it's a gosh darn shame. And I would hate to be a Cardinals fan and back in this conversation about whether you're tanking for the first pick again. But nonetheless, I think that's the spot that they're at right now.
Yeah. Might be tough in the desert.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough scene.
Well, we'll see where they go. That's first down. That's a off-season recap for these teams. It's time to head a second down. And today on second down, we're gonna play a game called Packing Their Bags. I'm gonna give you a player from each team, and you let me know as we start, not this season, but if we start 2024, whether this player, personnel coach, somebody like that, is going to still be with the squad in 2024, or will they be packing their bags and heading elsewhere? And if you have an idea of where they might go, throw it out there. It's not like people are watching this and this is recorded for posterity.
Sure. Hear me out.
Can't wait to get called back. Well, excuse me. You said a year ago that
the receipts are going to be ferocious on this program.
Hollywood Brown will be playing for the Denver Broncos. He's actually with the Dallas Cowboys, idiot.
That's right.
Shout out to the chat. Let's start off in Seattle. This is a little wild one, but here's my question. This is a question whether you believe in him. Mm-hmm. Geno Smith signs a 2-year contract, signed through 2025, but he has a potential out in 2024. You think Geno Smith, if you're a believer in him, I think this is a guy who's going to stick around and keep playing. But if you don't believe in him, this could be a market where if Seattle ends up sort of mid-rounds, there's some quarterbacks coming out next year, some younger guys they might be able to take on. Do you think Geno Smith is going to be with Seattle at the beginning of next year?
I don't think they're foreseeing any quarterbacks that will be in a mid-round that they're going to want to build their franchise around outside of the top couple of guys. I think you'll need one more year with Geno in this new Seattle situation to kind of triangulate whether he's any good at this point in his career or not, or whether, the phrase that we used before, a flash in the pan. Went for over 4,000 yards last year. We'll see what he does coming this year. Whether he matches that type of output or doesn't, I think it's unlikely that he blows. I don't think he beats his performance from last year. Even if he could get in the ballpark, I think you can measure that as a very successful season for Geno Smith. And that'll establish 2 years. Regardless of what happens coming up this year, it'll establish 2. And I think you'll just need one more data point, whether you're a Geno Smith fan or not. As a Seahawks fan, you want one more data point to kind of decide whether or not this guy's got it or he doesn't. It takes some of the guesswork out as to whether he was indeed a flash in the pan last year or whether we can actually expect this significantly higher level play from him going forward. So I think he will still be around, almost independent of what happens this year, unless he completely tanks. And I think that's unlikely given his weapons. I don't think he'll match his output from last year. I don't think he tanks.
Yeah,
I don't think he tanks.
I think Geno will be there. I think you kind of hit all the points in the head. I'm going to give you a bonus one here for Seattle. Mm-hmm. How about Pete Carroll?
That's a better question.
71 years old. He's 71. The Seattle team, again, not that the Seattle team is bad, but obviously it's gotten harder. He doesn't have his Russell Wilson. He was around with Russell forever. Mm-hmm. Is there a chance at 71, maybe Pete, especially if they miss the playoffs this year, get close, right. Is there a chance Pete Carroll?
You said it. You said it, I think, most concisely. If they miss the playoffs, that is going to be a conversation for certain. I don't think Pete Carroll, just from the outside looking in, what I've perceived of him as a football fan, watching him work and all his success throughout the years, I don't think a guy like that leaves any food on the table, as it were. I don't think you see him tap out 71 years old, notwithstanding. I don't think you see him tap out with a wild card caliber team with an outside shot where they could, be the Cinderella story of the year. I think he stays in it for as long as he can with this current team build. I don't think you see Pete Carroll start from the top with another quarterback after Geno Smith. I would go so far as to say that
like if Gino falters and they're having to go after a younger quarterback, like is Pete Carroll at 72 years old gonna be like, I'm gonna develop this guy, or is he just gonna be like, dude, I've been here forever? Like
I just don't think he's really gonna start from. I don't know if I would at that point in my career have the juice to truly start from scratch with the mindset that you need to have with somebody entering the league at the quarterback position. I think it's just such a huge project. And there's, as a coach that's been around for as long as he has, there's some degree of ownership that I think a lot of these top guys would want to take that wouldn't feel as appropriate for Pete Carroll if he's now 72 years old. They just signed a rookie quarterback and it's like, good to meet you. I might be here next year. I might not be. That doesn't seem like a good situation for the theoretical young man. I don't think it's something that Pete Carroll would want to do. So I think he rides out this Geno Smith train for as long as it's on the tracks and maybe takes a second look at what he wants to do next in his life afterwards.
Let's go to Arizona. And you know who we're going to talk about. And we're going to dive into Arizona and their season in just a little bit. But Kyler Murray. Mm-hmm. And here's why I ask the question. It is not because of Kyler Murray's talent. It is not because here's the thing. Kyler Murray's got signed a 5-year, $230 million contract last year. So to me, there's no shot that Kyler Murray leaves. I know that everybody's like, well, Kyler doesn't have the work ethic. They should move him. Who's taking him? Because you're taking on a massive hit if you're going to take Kyler Murray. I'm not even sure if he's even movable at that point.
No, he's not.
He is, $230 million, 103 was guaranteed at signing. So you still got $130 million to pay on this contract. His cap hit next year, his base salary next year in 24 is going to be $37 million. He's
going to be playing on the team by himself though. Like good job.
I mean, true, but the reports out of Arizona are, the Call of Duty jokes. The guy doesn't watch a lot of film. The original contract that they had him signing had a clause that he had to watch film, and then they took it out once everybody figured out that they can read. And they saw the contract. No, this is an adult human being that you just put in a homework clause for, and the Cardinals went record scratch. Sorry about that. But I mean, that's my problem is that I think there's a lot of people that are like, man, they should move Kyler. They should go elsewhere. Look for another quarterback. Fendi can't.
You're absolutely tied to him, unfortunately. I think he was one of the more overrated prospects at quarterback over the last, if we were right about him coming out in 19, I think we were. I think and it's so tough. It's almost like that number one spot is cursed. You know what I mean? Like, what can you possibly do to rise to the expectations of a top draft pick? Like, so, but I can't even really offer him an excuse for the thing because I've never seen him perform up to the level that it seemed like people were going to expect of him. He's not a big guy. We know he's mobile. We know his arm talent's probably among the best in the NFL with his baseball pedigree, and I understand that as well. We just see that archetype of quarterback work out so infrequently in the NFL that it just seemed crazy to me that the Cardinals were stacking all their chips on this Kyler to D-Hop connection where Kyler can't even see over the shoulder pads of his offensive line.
All right, can we not insult short kings out here? I know that you're sitting here, former offensive lineman, actually with some height out
respectfully.
But for us 5'9" guys out here, can you stop? There's no respect. You can't say respectfully 20 seconds after
respectfully, of course. Nick, you're not playing quarterback in the National Football League, though. I'm just saying.
Oh, thanks for bringing that up. Now I'm sad again.
Okay. All right. Listen, you could if you want. You could do anything you set your mind to. Okay.
Thank you.
But like this whole image that the Cardinals had, all these shiny new pieces, and they had Cliff Kingsbury living in this hyper modern mansion with like the glass walls and this they're on the brand new field and all this pomp and circumstance for just dog water. Like when it came down to it, it was just dog water. Like one of their best highlight is Kyler Murray running for his absolute life, closing his eyes and yinging a Hail Mary. He's down there somewhere, and he was. That was the best thing we saw come out of that entire phase of Cardinals football. And I think it's a shame. I think they're obviously handcuffed to the contract now. Nobody's going to pick that up given what they've seen from Kyler and how infrequently he's able to stay on the field of play. And I really do hate that as a former player myself. I hate judging players really at all based on the time that they spend on the field because injury is not their fault. But
not their fault, right?
So having said that, with that important disclaimer, if you just look at the amount of time that he's able to stay on the field, he's not providing the value that you're offering in that huge.
I mean,
contract.
4 seasons. He's played every game 2 of those seasons. He missed 3 games in 21. He missed at the end of the last year. He's going to miss all of this year.
So the 3 and 5 might be kind of contributing to that perception again, that I have.
You know, if we're gonna rip Kyler for what was a bad year last year, again with a bad team, we got to give him credit. 2021 completed almost 70% of his passes. He was a 100 quarterback rating. The year before, he was a 97 quarterback rating. This is not a bad player, but will he recover from the knee injury? Who knows? He's obviously an athletic talent, but
I mean, all the chips were put up on the table for him too. Like they put an offense around him and gave him the keys, watch a little bit of film, and let's make something shake. And it's a good player maybe, but somebody else in his position with the weapons that he had, I don't think he's doing all too much better than the next guy would have. I don't. I've been unimpressed by Kyler. I've always been unimpressed by Kyler. Respectfully.
All right, well, we got a Kyler Murray hater. Okay, that's fine. Just
respectfully, I don't hate the guy, but I just nothing I've seen from him has ever been impressive to me.
All right. Well, he hates everybody who's short. You heard it here first. Short hater over here.
And we're canceled. All right, it's been a great 2 episodes, y'all. The heightism in the channel. It's not good.
Let's talk a little bit. Quarterback room.
Yeah.
Trey Lance.
Will he be there at the start of 2024? I don't think so. I don't think he'll be there at the start of 2024 because I think this year.
Will he be there through 2023?
That is another good question. I think yes. I think he lasts through 2023. I
Does
think
he
that
start
entire
for his team week 1 is the question.
I think the starter for the Niners, game 1, week 1 of the 2024 season will not be Brock Purdy. It won't be Trey Lance, and it also won't be Sam Darnold. I don't have any good answers as to who it will be, but I have this feeling that none of those guys are the answer for what Sam Fran is trying to put together right now. I think you'll see starts from all 3 of them this year. I'm curious to see how like the nitty gritty of the depth chart winds up shaking out. I don't necessarily know if it matters all that much. Goodness willing, they all stay healthy throughout the whole year. I think you'll see starts from all of those guys, including Sam Darnold. And I further think that by the time the 2024 season rolls around, week 1, all 3 of them are gone. And there's new options in town.
Can I tell you the bad news if you're a 49ers fan hoping for all your quarterbacks stay healthy?
Mm-hmm.
You know what their opening 2 games are?
It's not good.
To the former Heinz Field, now a Chrysler Stadium.
Ooh.
And go against TJ Watt and the Steelers defense.
Love that for them.
And then they go to Los Angeles and take on Aaron Donald and the Rams defense.
Oh, so it's not like they have to go against some of the top premier pass rushers in the entire league in weeks 1 and 2 then, right? They'll probably be okay.
I will say I think Purdy is going to be the starter. I think Trey Lance will be gone by the end of next year. For no reason other than I think Trey Lance will look to move somewhere. I think he has sat behind players enough. He has not gotten an opportunity, really. He got hurt last year. I just think Trey Lance is going to go. I can go somewhere else and compete. I mean, you talk about teams that might be looking for quarterbacks. You got a lot of places that didn't draft quarterbacks this year that might be looking for a quarterback next year. I think Lance will look to go somewhere else. That's what I think. Now,
yeah, me too.
Could he start and be successful? Sure. I honestly just haven't seen enough Trey Lance. What I have seen has not been good, but I could say the same thing about Jordan Love. What I've seen from Jordan Love has not been good. Could he be good this year, considering he might get the keys? Possibly, but we'll see. I think Purdy, though, is going to be the starter. I think you throw 4 touchdowns in a playoff game, you do what Purdy did. I think he's earned the start.
Yeah, I agree.
Trey Lance to the Bucks. Good point. Could not that the Bucks quarterback room isn't awesome. Hey Baker, how you doing, man? The Rams. I'm not going to player here. I'm going with the perpetual rumor about Sean McVay.
You banging this left on me, aren't you?
I am, because Sean McVay has been rumored. He was rumored last year, thinking about retirement after the Super Bowl.
Get it.
Thinking about going to Fox, taking that big contract. Knows what Tom's going to get over there, so I can do it too. I think Sean McVay, and it's weird to think of a guy as young as Sean McVay and a guy that could stick around in the NFL until Pete Carroll's age of 71 and beyond. I don't see the want for him to be a coach, though. I'm watching him on the sidelines. He doesn't look like he's having fun out there. He looked like he had fun winning the Super Bowl, and it was like, well, done, check mark. I don't need to do anymore.
And he did look like he was having fun winning the Super Bowl, and I would tend to agree. And I'm, they had the storylines about the coach. They had to hold him back up off the sideline and whatnot, like that. To, design all these procedures to kind of contain his energy. You see a little bit less of that. I wonder how much of it is just maturing as a coach, getting a little more comfortable in the spot that you're in, and being able to go about these day-to-day things with a little more stoicism. But I mean, you got to just think about it. We got to think about it reasonably. With that much money on the table, some of these broadcasting contracts with, the quality of life change, a young man like that, he's got, tons of good years ahead of him. What does he want to settle himself into? Kind of continually rebuilding mediocre teams with the occasional, flash in the pan that is a Super Bowl occasion, or does he want to, lay up and be cushy, travel all over the world, and be in the broadcast booth one night a week for all the millions of dollars you possibly could? And we're going to find out whether he wants it or not to continue to coach.
Let's call a spade a spade. He won a Super Bowl. I mean, this is not to take away from the Super Bowl. But let's not pretend this is like Andy Reid developing Patrick Mahomes. They went out and traded for Matt Stafford. A bunch of picks to bring in their quarterback. They've developed Cooper Kupp, but this was a team that at the helm was a quarterback that was not a Sean McVay product. Okay. At that point, the Sean McVay product they had was Jared Goff. Now Jared Goff's out in Detroit. He's doing things in Detroit that are pretty cool. But I just think McVay, could I see him coaching for another 15 years? Sure. He has the talent to do it. He's one of the most brilliant minds out there. He could go down. You could be talking in 20 years, having the same discussion when we're doing this podcast 20 years from now, obviously, because what else would we be doing? That he's one of the best coaches of all time. But he flirted really hard with the TV booth. You get that cushy contract. And I think McVay would be really good in the booth. I'll be honest, as a commentator myself, I think McVay in that second role would be really, really good. I think coaches in the booth have always been really good. Even guys like, everybody talks about Gruden in the booth, but even guys like Rex Ryan has always been really entertaining and has an interesting mind as a coach. I think McVay would be great there. So I think he won't be there next year, but could he be there beyond there? Who knows?
Yeah, curious to see.
That is second down. We'll see how many of these guys are indeed packing their bags. Let's head to third down. And here on third down, we're going to talk Arizona, because the question is, you've got Kyler Murray locked down for years and years till 2029 is this contract. NFL contracts are weirder than that.
God.
But this Cardinals team might be the worst team in the NFL. They are in contention for the top pick in the NFL.
Again.
If you're the Arizona Cardinals, put on GM hat is on. Again, another visual gag that goes great for the audio. You're welcome, podcast listeners. Put on your GM hat. You get the number 1 overall pick. You have Kyler Murray. You got Caleb Williams, who, barring, we're all hoping for the best for Caleb. If Caleb Williams, who is right now, if he has the year like he had last year, would be pretty much the number 1 overall pick. If you're the Cardinals, are you taking Caleb? Are you trading back from that number 1 spot, picking up a haul of picks and going elsewhere? Or are you taking the only other player that's kind of been talked about in that top spot that at least I've heard about, and someone that would help this team, in Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver out of Ohio State, a prototype wide receiver who's the best wide receiver in college football, and for a team that has no wide receivers right now, could really help out Kyler. What are you doing if you're the GM and you do get that number 1 overall pick?
The Marvin Harrison Jr. move is really the only thing that comes to mind, because, like you said, they're fairly well seat-belted into this contract kind of indefinitely. Like, what do they wind up with Kyler and Caleb on the roster at the same time? If they wind up taking for one, that doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense. But then I have further questions. They take Marvin Harrison Jr., so you reestablish Kyler with a primary 1A receiver. You've seen what happens there already. You've run this experiment, and that's what breaks my heart for Cardinals fans. It's just the exact same situation they've been in before. So they wind up taking Marvin Harrison Jr. It's optimistically, it is the second coming of Kyler to D-Hop. It wasn't sufficient. It was great on paper. Probably they were rating in a Madden game. They were probably putting folks in a blender. Once it came down to it, it wasn't enough. So you've seen what that looks like already. I think you've also probably seen enough to know that Kyler is not the answer over any type of a long term. I feel like if it were me, I will have seen enough by this point to not try to rebuild again around Kyler with him as the main piece, taking up all this cap space on the big long contract. Curious to see whether he would be the type of guy that would be willing to restructure based on outward perceptions. It doesn't seem like that's necessarily in Kyler's MO. I have no idea. I've never said word one to the guy. I wouldn't think that it would be. It seems like a terrible situation for considering what might be the case for a number one pick. It still feels like a terrible situation.
Yeah, again, we're back to like they had the worst case scenario, which is they signed a big contract to their young, promising quarterback, and not only does he have a bad year, he gets hurt at the end of that year and won't even play this year. Like that's the worst case scenario.
Yeah, truly.
We're gonna play a game here. There's a game on the. I'm gonna read you the top player at each position for the Arizona Cardinals. There's a point to this, but you let me know whether you're comfortable with them being the top player of that position.
Okay.
Just yes or no. Quick. Okay. Kyler Murray.
Okay. No.
James Conner.
Yes.
Hollywood Brown, Rondale Moore, Greg Dortch, wide receivers.
Sure.
No, don't lie to me.
I'm trying for Hollywood.
Okay.
It's a no. Top no. That's a great slot receiver room, but okay.
Well, that's 3 slot receivers. Zach Ertz.
Yeah, exactly.
At 36 years old, Zach Ertz.
You said 36 because you're leading me. I'm standing with Big Daddy-O's. I'm saying yes, it's Zach Ertz. Come on.
Sorry, he's 32.
I'm saying yes for Zach Ertz. I'm okay with that. Let's be objective.
If there's anybody here that stands out to you, but it's DJ Humphries, Elijah Wilkinson, Froholt, Will Hernandez, and Paris Johnson Jr. Anybody in there really tickling your fancy over there?
No, hopefully Paris is great.
Hopefully, rookie.
You said Will who now? Hernandez?
Will Hernandez, who's solid.
No.
You go to the defensive side. Zaven Collins, Rashard Lawrence, Lekey Fotu, and Jonathan Ledbetter. Anybody on that defensive line, really, you're like, thank God we have them.
I'm not getting that feeling. Okay. None of those names are bringing me that type of joy. Nick Mizesko.
Linebackers, BJ Ojolari, rookie, Kazir White, young player, we don't really know. Dennis Gardeck, unless Dennis Gardeck really.
It might be his year. It might be old Dennis's year, though. You never know.
Dennis's year. I mean, shout out to Sioux Falls.
That's right.
And then you look at the secondary, Antonio Hamilton, Jalen Thompson, Buda Baker, Marker Wilson. Buda Baker.
Alone.
So what you're sitting there is you're looking at the major position groups. You have 3 players that you're comfortable with.
I got a safety and a tight end at best. I got a safety and an old tight end.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not great.
And a running back.
It's really not great.
So my only point with doing this tedious exercise is you got a lot of holes on this team.
Yeah, man.
You got a lot of holes.
I don't know where you even start.
A lot of problems. So to me, trade back.
Yeah.
Get a haul of pick. This is not one. Marvin Harrison is not going to turn the Cardinals from a 4-win team with Kyler Murray to a 10-win team challenging for the division. Right. They have a lot of problems out here.
Yeah.
Get some youth under here. Kyler Murray's still going to take time to develop. And guess what? If in 2 years Kyler Murray doesn't develop, you're going to be taking a quarterback anyways. But Caleb Williams isn't solving this team either. It's always the problem with taking at the top of the draft quarterback. CJ Stroud goes to Houston. You're in Houston now. Good luck. I mean, you got a bad offensive line and no wide receivers. Hope it works out for you, bud. I've been a Browns fan for my entire life. That's been the problem with the Browns forever is here's Brady Quinn. Who's he throwing to? Well, listen, you didn't tell us we needed that, okay?
Right. Yeah, the Cardinals still going to be the Cardinals outside of the quarterback room too. Like, you're right. There's way too many pieces. And I mean, just the beginning of that project is so daunting. I guess, of your available options.
Get picks.
Yeah, bail out, get picks. But like, man, oh man, I would hate to be in that situation.
I mean, it's brutal. Now, luckily, they do have Houston's. They could end up with having 2 top picks next year. They could have the number. They've got Houston and Arizona's first-round picks.
And they're going to be bad.
Could have 1 and 2.
I mean, that's crazy.
Now, you do get an interesting where if you have 1 and 2, do you take Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison and just go, this is who we're building around?
Yeah, figure it out. I mean, sell some jerseys.
I wouldn't.
Probably be mid. You're going to be mid anyway. You might as well be mid and young and exciting too, right? Like, why not?
I don't know. I think it's an interesting talk, and we'll keep talking about it throughout the year. But that is your third down, talking Kyler or Caleb. It's time to go to fourth down. In fact, it's fourth down every time here on the podcast. It's time to talk predictions.
Yep.
Front to back, 1 to 4. How's this division shaking out? I'm thinking I know mine in my head, and this might be the most confident I am of any division.
Wow. I think we'll probably be in agreement. I'm not sure whether your 1-2 are going to be the same as mine. With the problems that they're going to have in a quarterback room, I can't put the Niners at the top of this division anymore. I have this Seahawks, Niners, Rams, Cardinals in the way off in the distance somewhere back there. Seahawks, Rams, Cardinals.
Niners, Rams, a peewee team from Northern Jersey.
That's right. Some AAA guys.
Parsippany High School fighting whatevers.
The Arena Football Philadelphia Soul, now defunct.
Shout out to Bon Jovi, by the way.
Big shout to Bon Jovi. Absolutely.
If
My
there are
flag
any arena
football
fans
team,
out there,
and then eventually the Cardinals. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
I'm gonna go 49ers 1. I think their defense is good enough to win this division.
You think they figure it out at quarterback even enough? I mean, winning
they did it with Brock Purdy.
They did.
Did it with Brock
You
Purdy.
are correct.
By the way, for knowledge, schedule this year, the divisions they match up with, AFC North gauntlet. I mean, 4 tough teams to go against. Yeah. And then they match up with the NFC East gauntlet, 2.5 tough teams to go against. I'll let you think about which ones are the half. Can't wait to talk NFC East. I think.
What does he mean by that?
No, don't worry about it. I think San Francisco has the defense to do it. I think they did last year. I think it's going to be Brock Purdy. I think if Brock Purdy is healthy all year, I think Brock Purdy is healthy in that playoff game. They have a chance of winning that playoff game.
I think so too. I do think so too.
He's fine.
Yep.
I'm not excited by him, but when you got Christian McCaffrey, when you got Deebo Samuel, when you got, by the way, we are not giving enough credit to Brandon Ayuk from the doldrums where he wasn't even getting targets. It wasn't even like he was on the field half the time.
Yeah, true indeed.
To being a really nice piece on this offense.
And we haven't even mentioned Deebo. That might have been the first time we mentioned Deebo all day today. And that's,
George Kittle. Hey, you got George Kittle too.
Right, yeah. They're right. For certain some names that that weren't involved in any type of changes or transitions or so, but among the best at their position groups for certain. I don't know if Purdy is quite enough, but I'm excited to see. You're right. He did what he had to do last year.
Kyle Shanahan knows what he has. Kyle Shanahan's not afraid to run the ball. He's going to pound the rock, okay? He's going to run a lot of those jet sweep motions with McCaffrey and Deebo. He's got Elijah Mitchell, by the way, one of the best complementary backs. This is a guy who, what's crazy is like I think it was 8 games. I'll have to look at the stat. But like in the 8 games where both 6 games where Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell were both healthy, Christian McCaffrey averaged like 10 carries per game. When Elijah Mitchell wasn't healthy, McCaffrey was 19 carries. Mitchell takes a lot of carries from McCaffrey. It takes a lot of that load off. They're going to run the ball. They're going to put 2 backs out there. Kittle's one of the best blocking tight ends out there, and then he can go catch the ball. Yeah. I think it'll be 49ers 1. I think it'll be Seahawks 2. I think Rams 3, Cardinals 4. That's your lineup. How many playoff teams are coming out of here? I'm going to say 2, because I think the NFC is kind of dog water. This is a very the NFC wildcard team. The third one is going to be near 500, if not under 500. I think the Seahawks get in as a wildcard team, and I think obviously the Niners get in.
Honestly, just so that I don't start our preseason preview episodes with 2 divisions that are both sending 2, I don't love it.
Whoa, time out. We have the South divisions coming up on Thursday. Trust me, you're not finding 2 teams.
Maybe they'll send none.
Yeah, they might just happen?
Can that be a
trade
thing?
Their playoff team. Sorry guys about that.
I'm going to say 1 from this division, and in my forecast, I think Seahawks takes it slightly better than the Niners here.
You're saying the 49ers are going to miss the playoffs?
I'm rolling some dice here to beam a correct prediction. I don't necessarily think it's my highest odds that I've ever said. I think
get them.
Niners miss, Seahawks make it, and clip me, because we're coming back later, and you're gonna have to old takes exposed, or I'm the best, and Nick Mizesko kisses the ring. One of the 2.
On our second episode.
Here we go.
Hashtag ahead.
Harvest the clip. I said what I said.
The sticks. At Fendler tweets.
Okay.
Said the 49ers
Niners miss, Seahawks make it. I said what I said.
The playoffs.
Yep.
Thoughts?
Oh, Niners fans are going to hate that, bro, because those folks are some savages.
Thoughts at Problem Right.
Please don't.
Balance
Chakra. Please don't, bro. Anyway, but no, don't put Stein on it either. No, not my guys. Not all my Niner fan guys. Bro, there goes my mentions. He's still typing.
All right. And post. Have fun with that tweet, man.
I literally hate you so much. The live tweet on the show is insanity.
That was a live tweet during the show. Hey, if you're listening on the audio podcast, come tune in Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7 Eastern. You might get tweeted about. Okay. So we talked about standings. Fendler's mentions are going to be ruined. Let's go to MVP candidates. Anybody from this division you think going to be in the MVP discussion?
No, not really.
Discussion.
I don't think so. Curious to see, on the outside shot, like if CMC can put together a 100.0% healthy year in the offense,
player of the year, maybe.
Yeah. I think maybe if you wanted to throw down just like a lottery bet, I think Geno Smith. I'm committing. I'm pot committed here on the Seahawks. You'd think I was a fan. I know my boys McClure and Mark Ant are going to be excited about this in the chat tomorrow. We're going to be able to recap all the ways that I was saying great things about the Seahawks. I might as well double down here. No, I don't think there's any MVP candidates involved. I think CMC.
West
maybe.
Coast is going to ruin you. Oh my, not like this. Yep. I'm going to have a new host on Tuesday.
Okay, take it easy. Let's not. No. Hold on, one thing at a time here. Let's go one week at a time. I'm saying Geno Smith for your lottery ticket. CMC, maybe offensive player of the year. Could be fun.
Our Tuesday show is not even going to be a prediction show. It's just going to be me inviting Earl and Problem on here to just eviscerate you. I'm going to take a nap in the back.
Just nonstop. You're going to leave me on. You're going to leave me on mute, and it's just going to be a long and terrible show.
Yeah,
Can't wait, man. Can't wait for that.
I don't know if there's a door into that room. I'm going to have Emily lock the door so you can't get out. Like, it's going to be bad.
I'm well fortified down here. Okay, I know there's some big fellas. I'm not worried.
MVP candidates, probably not from this division. Offensive player of the year, I think CMC is a great shout. Mm-hmm. I think you could see a guy like Debo do it. I think Debo's kind of taking a step back with CMC out there, take the load off of what Debo was doing before, which was being number one running back and wide receiver.
I'll talk about a Swiss Army knife.
Also,
and punt return and kick return, don't forget. Put him in safety. Why not?
You never know. Cooper Kupp. Could this be a guy that makes you think? I think defensive player of the year, you've always got Aaron Donald out there that could make some noise. I think Nick Bosa. I mentioned Joey Bosa last time. I'm going to mention Nick Bosa.
In the mix.
Might be the best pass rusher in the NFC. And again, if JSN didn't get hurt, I was going to have JSN as a rookie of the year watch. But, man, that sucks that he
it's a shame.
Broke his wrist. Worst to first. Every year in the NFL, one team goes from the worst team in the division to the first in the division, makes the playoffs. Last year, the worst team in this division was the Rams, I'm fairly sure. Can the Rams get to the top? I'll say no.
I got this one as I'm not sure. I might have been looking at a different year. I got last year's standings as Niners, Seahawks, Rams, then Cardinals. I had Cardinals at 4-13 and Rams at 5-12.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound right to you?
About right.
Either way, we could freestyle whoever the heck is last, whether it's
either of those two teams.
It doesn't matter. Either way, it doesn't matter. This is a hard, blazing, solid no.
I will have yeses later, but it's not this division.
Eventually, we might. It's not going to be the NFC East either. We'll get there. Cardinals have 0.0 shot. Neither do the Rams. If you want to use your imagination and say the Rams were last, they don't either. Niners and Seahawks are a class above the Rams and the Cardinals, both, I do believe.
And then we close it out for you fantasy football aficionados, whether you're playing DFS, whether you're playing actual fantasy, like the 17-week season fantasy. What's up, Jax? If you're on the audio, Jax just showed up. Like
checking in. Your boy.
Can't see him on camera, but I can see him in his camera shot. But any guys that you're like, man, I would love to draft him. Maybe obviously, like we know about the top guys, but is there somebody maybe lower down in the ADP that you're like, man, this guy, keep an eye out for him?
I mean, whoever winds up getting the start at quarterback in San Francisco, like I feel like you'll be able to whoever winds up being, I feel like you'll be able to pick them up off waivers and might not be a bad situation depending on their matchup. I'm expecting the Niners to generally overpower some of the worst teams. So I feel like you might be able to grab some favorable fantasy matchups in there. Low-hanging fruit, obviously, George Kittle is going to probably be the best outside of Kelsey, your best tight end option as far as fantasy football goes. And we are still for the entire episode staying pot committed to the Seahawks. Let Geno Smith cook, man. Why not? I think he's going to put up some big yardage again this year. Let him chef. Why not Geno and matchup dependent? Take a look at whoever San Fran is playing at quarterback when they play teams like the Cardinals, where they're going to romple stomp anyway. Let Brock Purdy go crazy.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you two. I'm going to key in a little bit on the Seahawks as well. Obviously, you got Cooper Kupp on the Rams. Mm-hmm. Who's going to be a top level wide receiver.
KW3.
Arizona is the team that you could draft players from if you felt
like
a
football team. The Cardinals are a football team. True indeed.
Yeah. And then you 49ers, I think there's just a lot of pieces you could go with. Obviously, CMC, I just don't think there's a lot of value. Obviously, we know how good those guys are. Keep an eye on Ayuk. But for me, two guys I keep my eye on in Seattle. Number one is Tyler Lockett. His ADP right now is somewhere around 71 in PPR leagues. That's real for a guy who is especially with now knowing that Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to miss some time with his broken wrist. Tyler Lockett now isn't having that target share with your number 3 receiver. He's a guy who can take the top off the defense. This is somebody who I think keep an eye on as, wide receiver 2 level, probably not wide receiver 1, but as a wide receiver 2 in a deep year for wide receivers. I like Tyler Lockett. He's going to have some chances with Geno Smith to really get over the top and find some guys. Also, I love K-Dub. Don't get me wrong. Kenneth Walker's great. Look at Zach Charbonnet, though. Kenneth Walker's dealing with this week-to-week groin injury. Yeah. Whether he's going to be full, those more than anything, Fen. Those muscular injuries, some of them just linger and
hang around on you indefinitely.
And it's tough for a running back who's looking to make sharp cuts. Kenneth Walker is so electric. Look at Zach Charbonnet. He's dealing with, he got dinged up a little bit, but reports are he's pretty good. His ADP is around 99. He's a late round guy right now. But in PPR, going as the 36th and 38th running back right now, this guy, I think if K9 has any sort of issues, you're going to get a couple starts out of Charbonnet. You're going to get a couple games where Charbonnet gets a load of the carries. I'm not saying take him in the 3rd round, 4th round, but if you're sitting there 6th, 7th, 8th round, you're looking for some handcuffs, some guys that, especially if you take K9, get Zach Charbonnet late, because I think Charbonnet is going to steal some touchdowns in the red zone and could be a guy that gets a little bit of momentum late in the year, especially if Kenneth Walker's dealing with this groin injury throughout the season. So just a couple guys to keep your eye on.
For sure.
I think all in all, the NFC West could be very interesting, Fen. I'm excited to watch them. I think they've gone from, early 2010s where they were the division winner was 7-9, 8-8, the Sam Bradford years. This division has become very, very fun to watch.
Yeah, much more competitive. I think there's some compelling storylines top to bottom. San Fran quarterback room, what the absolute heck is going on in Arizona. Sean McVay, is he going to be a broadcaster? Is he going to be coaching for the next few years? I feel like there's storylines top to bottom, and that's some of the most exciting parts about getting into a new season is seeing how those unfold.
Big shout out to everybody who hung out with us live in the chat. Again, if you're listening on the audio podcast, we are live each and every Tuesday and Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, twitch.tv/Muthead TV. But I am Nick Mizesko.
And I am Andy Fendler. It's been a pleasure and an honor, folks. Thanks so much for joining us here tonight.
And we hope you guys are staying ahead of the sticks as we are. We will be back on Thursday live. If you're catching this on the live show, Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Our next episodes coming out are going to be the South Division. So if you're listening to this podcast, look for those up end of this week. As always, please download, subscribe, rate, review. Help us get that algorithm going by supporting the podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, just give us those lovely reviews. We certainly do appreciate it. And for our producer, Crook, for our graphics designer, Gnome Designs, make sure you give him a follow on Twitter. And for everybody here, we'll catch you next time here on Ahead of the Sticks. Audio is stopped.